all of them. We had the amendment party where they had every single time. Or a vote, or a resident.
Except what?
Except, consent to benefits. But they don't understand enough to come to the court for them. The doctor says, you know, able to attend, no, will they understand, no. But they can manage up to $5,000 in a bank account.
And this is today. No.
But they can marry permanent residents, both. I think even married, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. No, no, no. Long weekend, yes, we're good.
Is it okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
How are you?
I'm doing good. It's gonna be a bit, because you guys are like last and off.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
Okay, so what is,
And Ms. Kozlowski has something in court six, so, I mean, Judge can form, I don't, you know, he can form, do whatever order he wants to, but I don't know when Ms. Kozlowski will be back from six. They don't start till Monday.
yeah, she had told me she was gonna try to come in early.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, I guess the judge is here, you can ask him if he can move it up, but.
yeah, I'm just.
Good morning.
Fine, how are you?
I'm okay. It's Monday.
We only, we can,
Is 13 total on the docket?
yes. That's what I mean.
Anybody else?
You do have an attorney-client privilege there, if you want to get together and work it in you, and.
No, I'm not married, I'm just always here to aid and above, so it's just me trying to.
I know,
coordinate
and I was told by your staff that you don't do probate.
I don't, I'm really.
You take the hard one to start with.
It's just helping the family out, okay. Well, I guess I will, when the judge comes in, I'll have a better sense of.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that. All right, I said, no, fifty rounds, right?
You stand up. And turn the video on. Renee, you've been made co-host.
Recording in progress.
Whose microphone's on? All right, Andy, let's start with the first case. Mr. Alley, would you turn your video on, please? Mr. Alley, is Terry Kimbrough with you? You're muted. I cannot hear you. Okay, and what about Annie? Where's Nicole Howard? Yeah, there we go. Miss Howard, good morning.
Good morning, Judge. How are you?
Very good. Is Terry Kimbrough with you?
No, he should be on Zoom.
Annie, do you see Mr. Kimbrough?
No, he's not here yet.
We're checking the waiting room. Mr. Kimbrough is not present in the waiting room. We're going to move on to the next case and come back to you.
Thank you, Judge.
Probably with Mr. Doggett. Pull Lucy Cordero out, put her back in the waiting room.
Morning.
Good morning. All right, we're on the record in 24 CPR 041450, state of Patrick B. Lavelle. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Did she respond? I couldn't hear her.
Say that loud.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Doggett, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Judge. Could you please state your name for the court?
Ziglinda W. Lavelle.
And your husband was Patrick B. Lavelle?
Yes,
And your husband passed away on July 1st, 2024 in Harris County, Texas at the age of 82?
yes,
And was your husband a resident of and domiciled in Fort Bend County, Texas at the time of his death?
yes,
And did your husband die without revoking his will, which is dated November 19th, 2018?
yes,
Was your husband at least 18 years old and of sound mind at the time he executed his will?
oh yeah,
Did he have any children born to him or adopted by him after he executed his will?
no,
Did your husband have any marriages dissolved after he executed his will?
no,
Is any state governmental agency or charitable organization named as a beneficiary in your husband's will?
No.
And there is a necessity for the administration of your husband's estate, correct?
yeah,
And you are named as the independent executor in the will to serve without bond.
yeah,
And you're not disqualified from accepting letters testamentary.
No.
And you've never been convicted of any kind of criminal offense.
no.
Judge, if we could have the will brought up on the screen, please.
1 second.
Okay, Ms. Lavelle.
Huh?
Is this on the screen here? Is this your husband's last will and testament?
Yeah,
And on the last page here, is that your husband's signature?
yeah,
Okay. Judge, that's all we have. We're asking the will be admitted to probate and Ms. Lavelle be appointed as independent executor without bond.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Siglindi W. Lavelle. She testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will into probate and appoint Ms. Lavelle as independent executrix to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. Ma'am, I'm very sorry for your loss. Mr. Dog, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Nair. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Anderson.
Good morning, Judge.
Are your clients with you?
Yes, he's right here. I don't know if he's close enough. Can you see us both now?
I can see his face, yes. Will you have both applicants testifying today?
No, there's just one applicant. There was a second executor, but she could not appear, and we have an affidavit on file to that effect that she was unable to serve. And the will itself specifically states that if one of the co-executors cannot serve, then the remaining applicant can serve.
Okay. All right, then. On the record in 24 CPR 040934, state of Norenda Nair. If I could have your client raise his right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Very good. All right, Mr. Anderson, you can take it from here.
Can you state your name, sir?
My name is Rajesh.
And you are the applicant and the nephew of the decedent, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, Norenda Nair died on December the 2nd, 2023 in Fort Bend County, Texas, at the age of 76, right?
Yes, sir.
And that has been less than 4 years has elapsed since he passed away, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, the decedent was domiciled and had a place where he resided in Fort Bend County, Texas on the date of his death, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we have a document to show you which purports to be his will. Do you recognize this document as his will?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you recognize his signature thereon, right? Okay. Now, this document the date is March the 2nd, 2010. Now, as far as you know, this will was never revoked, right?
No.
Okay. Judge, we asked the court to take judicial notice that the original will is on file with the clerk's office.
The court shall take judicial notice.
Okay. Now, isn't it true that this will did not name the state of Texas, nor any subdivision thereof, or any charitable organization as a divisor, right? Okay. Now, no child or children were
Mr.
born
Anderson,
or adopted
Mr.
by
Anderson, stop. My court reporter is not hearing your client's answer. If you could go
Oh.
back a couple questions, make sure he's close enough to where your microphone picks up his audio.
Okay. She wanted me to start. I'm not sure where.
At least the last two questions.
Last two questions, please.
Okay. Now, we asked the court to take judicial notice that the original will is on file with the clerk's office.
And the court shall take judicial notice.
Okay. Isn't it true that the will did not name the state of Texas, nor any subdivision thereof, or any charitable organization as a divisor? Isn't that correct?
This is correct.
Now, no child or children were born to or adopted by the decedent after the day he signed this will. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, Now, the decedent was married just one time to a retina on May the 23rd, 1977, and he remained married to her until her death on June the 5th, 2021. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, you have personal knowledge of his financial affairs, and there are no debts owed by the decedent, but there is a need for administration because there is real and personal property that must be transferred. Isn't that correct?
This is correct.
Okay. Now, you are named in the will as the independent executor, and you are not disqualified to act as such or to accept letters testamentary. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Now, also, the will did name a co-executor. Her name is Barinda Hamavati, who declined to serve for her own personal reasons. She signed an affidavit to that effect, which is on file with the clerk's office. Isn't that right?
This is correct.
Correct. Okay. Now, the will did specifically provide that if either co-executor is unwilling to serve, then the other shall serve, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, we serve citations. Citations have been served and returned in the manner and for the length of time required by the Texas State Code. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the decedent did not apply for and receive any Medicaid benefits on or after March the 1st, 2005. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Judge, we have nothing further other than the estate is not taxable, and we ask the court to waive any appraisals.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Rajesh Sakar. Is that correct? Did I pronounce that?
That's Rajesh. Yes, sir.
Rajesh Sakar. My apologies. He testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will to probate and appoint Ms. Sakar as independent executor to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. I'm very sorry for your loss, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anything further, Mr. Anderson?
No, sir. I will excuse you.
Yes, you are excused.
Thank you.
Hey. Let's see if it's declines with the attorney. Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can, Judge.
All right. We're on the record in 24 CPR 041470, estate of Gerald L. Payne. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Very good. Mr. Swain, you may proceed with your prove-up.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Payne, could you state your name for the court?
Francis Krause Payne,
And can you tell me your relationship to Gerald L. Payne?
his wife,
And he died on August 5th, 2024 in Harris County, Texas.
correct.
But he resided in Fort Bend County at the time of his death. Is that true?
Yes,
To the best of your knowledge, your husband died with a will that was dated October 16th, 2011.
yes,
And I have a copy of that will here in front of me that I filed with the court. Do you recognize that to be his signature?
yes, I do.
Okay. Your husband never revoked that will to the best of your knowledge?
Correct.
Is there a necessity to administer this estate?
Yes,
And there's no state governmental agency of the state or charitable organization named in the will as a beneficiary. Is that correct?
that's correct.
There were no children born to or adopted by your husband after he signed this will?
Correct.
And he was married once during his lifetime to you?
Yes,
And you two had two children that were born to you, Heather and Justin, during his lifetime.
yes,
This will names you to serve as the independent executor. Is there any reason you're disqualified from serving?
no,
And you're asking that the court appoint you today to be the independent executor of your husband's estate and that appraisals and bond be waived. Is that true?
yes.
We have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Frances K. Payne. She testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will into probate, appoint Ms. Payne as independent executrix to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived. I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Judge. May we be excused?
Yes, you may. Everything will be signed shortly.
All right.
Let's go back to Andrews. Not, oh, okay then. Let's move on to the next case, Crawford.
Oh, Judge? Sorry, I had to go to use the porta potty down the street and just got back.
It's okay, Mr. Novi, if you turn your video on, please.
Interesting. Oh, it says start video. Can you see me, Judge?
I cannot.
And then when I click on it, it says, it either says stop video or start video, but when I put it on start video, it has a line through it.
Is anything covering your camera?
No, Judge.
Mr. Novi, you may want to restart, log out and log back in to
Okay.
Zoom. What I'll do is I'll move on to the next case and come right back to you.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
All right.
Can you hear me? I just want to make sure mine's working.
Yes, I can see everyone else, so y'all are good. Let Mr. Novi log out and try to log back in. We'll come right back to you.
Thank you.
Annie. Do we have an interpreter present? Okay.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Judge, I am on the Felonia case, but I was just advised by one of the attorneys that it's actually Tagalog and not Spanish. They got confused because of the last name. So I am trying to find you a Tagalog interpreter. Would you give me 20 minutes?
That's fine. We'll come
Okay.
back.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Can we move back to Andrews at all?
I mean, there's two applicants, if they agree, just take for the other one applicant.
Is Kimbrough present? Is he here? Okay. Let's move on to Roberts.
Carolyn Lowe, Delta Faulkner, I think, and District, you know, the county. They don't have Bobby Clark.
See if they're with somebody. If I could get everybody to turn their video on, please.
Good morning, Judge.
Morning. Ms. Faulkner, we are missing a Bobby Clark.
Yes, and I was just about to text. I couldn't see until now whether or not she was on. And let me see where she is.
Lori. Mr. Novi.
Yes, Judge, I don't know what's going on. I logged out, came back on,
And you're certain nothing's covering your camera.
no, not at all. I'm looking right at it and I don't know what's going on.
Are you on a laptop by chance?
Yes.
Check to see if there's a slide that covers the camera.
Well, but I'm not using the laptop. I'm using my monitor.
Oh. Check to see what camera in Zoom is being utilized.
Okay, I know how to do that. I apologize, Judge. I don't know what's going on. I'm not the most tech savvy person, unfortunately.
You go to video on Zoom and there's a little kind of arrow that points up. If you click on that and you go to video settings, you should be able to tell what camera is being utilized.
Okay, let's see. You said go to, let's see, I've got this. I'm sorry, you said go to what, Judge?
Go to video in the Zoom application. There's a little arrow that points up. Click on the arrow.
Yes.
Now click on video settings.
All right.
Under video settings, it should take you directly to the video section. Under camera, there's a drop-down menu. Make sure the correct camera is selected that you're utilizing.
I only have one that says integrated webcam.
Does your monitor have a camera separate
No,
from your laptop?
no. Oh, yeah, yes, I have a separate camera on my monitor.
Well, then you should have two cameras that drop down. That give you two options.
I only have one.
Yeah, for some reason, it's not reading that camera.
Yes,
So what your camera is probably, the one camera that's working is what's integrated on your laptop. Is your laptop closed right now?
yes.
That's why. If you open it up, point it at you, turn your camera back on.
Your Honor, I'm getting her re-signed in again.
Well, let's see. I'll put start video over here. Gosh, it still, it's amazing. It has,
There we go.
oh, okay. I guess I have to look this way with one eye, and unfortunately, my right eye I can't see out of, but that's okay. If you don't mind looking at the side of my head.
I do not.
Thank you for your help, Judge. I'm so sorry.
You're welcome. You might want to, after this, restart your computer.
Okay,
There's probably something going on with the connection between your camera on your monitor to your laptop. If you just restart it, it should help.
okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. All right. Bobby Clark. Ms. Faulkner?
Your Honor, she's trying to re-sign in again. She thought she had signed in, but I'm trying to walk her through it now.
Okay, Christopher Morella's registration, I just typed.
Bring in Crawford. Let's take care of Crawford real quick. Ms. Faulkner, we're gonna wait. We're gonna come right back. to you.
Mrs. Clark is trying to sign in, Your Honor, and she says this, she's getting an error message, and she's walking, I'm walking her through it, and she's getting what I'm getting, what I see.
Okay. And we have we're gonna
Okay, I've
keep
typed my
walking
name.
through it.
Okay,
We're gonna come right back to you, okay?
I'm done saying what I am.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. We're on the record 22 CPR 037592, Estate of Irene G. Crawford. All those who intend to testify, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. All right, to Mr. Novi, why don't you get us started?
Thank you, Judge. First, I'd like to call Gary E. Cooper Jr. Gary, can you hear me?
Mr. Cooper, you're gonna have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Cooper, are you familiar with and did you know Irene G. Crawford?
Yes, sir.
And how did you come to know her?
She is my wife's grandmother.
Your wife's, okay, all right. Are you familiar with her signature?
Yes,
Okay, so in other words, maybe you got Christmas cards or she wrote you a nice check or something like that. And you
yes,
would recognize and know her signature, is that correct?
yes, sir.
Judge, is there any way that we could put the will on the screen by chance?
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, would y'all be able to? I don't have that. Yeah, well, there we go. All right, this is, it says the last will and testament of Irene G. Crawford. And we're going to scroll down and get to the page where she has her signature. All right, on this, which says page 5 of 7, do you recognize Irene G. Crawford's signature?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, at the time this will was signed, which would have been obviously March 26th of 1992, do you believe at that time that she was over the age of 18?
Yes,
Okay. Was she in her right mind at that time?
yes, sir.
Okay. You're not receiving any payment for your testimony today, are you?
No, sir.
Okay. Judge, I pass this witness, and next I'd like to call Mr. Clayton. I'm sorry, Clayton, I forgot your last. Clayton Brown.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, are you familiar with Irene G. Crawford?
Yes.
How did you know her?
So she's my wife's grandmother.
Your wife's grandma. Okay. So you've known her a long time, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Would you be able to recognize her handwriting on this document, which is on the screen in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is this Irene G. Crawford's signature that you recognize?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And again, this will was signed March 26, 1992. Was she over the age of 18 at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was she competent to be able to sign that will at that time?
Yes, sir.
Are you receiving any type of payment for your testimony today?
No, sir.
Okay. Judge, I'd like to pass this witness and next call Rhonda J. Daly.
Proceed.
Ms. Daly, again, would you mind stating your full name for the judge?
Rhonda Jean Daly.
Okay. And your mother was Irene G. Crawford, is that correct?
Yes.
Unfortunately, she passed away October 26th of 2020 in Fort Bend County, is that correct?
Yes.
And she had been a longtime resident, obviously, in Fort Bend County prior to the time she passed away, is that correct?
Yes, she was living with us.
Okay. Now, she had a will which was dated March 26, 1992. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's a need to have what we call an administration of this estate. In other words, there's an asset and there may be some debts that need to be addressed and taken care of as soon as possible. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this will, had you had a chance to see that will on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Your mother never revoked that will, did she?
No.
Also, there were no child or children born to or adopted by her after the date she made that will. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And no state or governmental agency or charitable organization was named as a beneficiary in that will. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And no marriage was dissolved after the date that she passed away. Is that correct? After the date she made that will. I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the will named H. Eugene Crawford to be the independent executor That would have been your father, is that correct?
Yes.
Unfortunately, he passed away and predeceased your mother, is that correct?
Yes.
Then the will next named Terry, and it's Terry, capital E period Crawford, to serve as independent executor, is that correct?
Yes.
Unfortunately, he also predeceased your mother, is that correct?
Yes.
So you've come forward as the applicant, and all people who would be heirs have signed a waiver and consent, waiving their appearance in this case and consenting to you be the independent administrator in this matter. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're not disqualified from serving, are you?
No.
Okay. And if the judge appoints you as the independent administrator, you should be able to accept what's known as letters of independent administration. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Judge, that's all I have in this matter.
All right. After listening to testimony of Gary E. Cooper Jr., Clayton Brown, and Rhonda J. Daly, the court finds Eden died testate, and her copy of the will did not name a person to serve as executor, or the named person is unable to serve. The necessity exists for administration. The court will grant the request of the applicant and appoint Rhonda J. Daly as independent administrator of the estate. I want to say I'm very sorry for y'all's loss.
Thank you.
And I want to
Judge,
thank witnesses.
thank you for being able to hear this case for us.
I'm sorry?
I said, thank you for being able to hear this case for us.
Not a problem. Glad we could get it taken care of. All right, y'all have a great day, and y'all are free to go. Mr. Novi, hang tight. You're going to handle the next case, okay?
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Yes.
Email Pamela, tell them to pass just go ahead. We're going to go past the interpreter case. I know she's got to get somewhere else this morning. There's no need for her to spend all that time for that. If I could get everybody to turn their camera on, please. If everybody would turn their camera on, please. Ms. Clark, if you would click the button that says turn on camera, I have sent you several requests. And we've lost her. Ms. Faulkner, I have to move on. I have a very large docket this morning. I cannot wait all morning. I'll come back to you at the end of docket. Mr. Novi, just hang tight. We'll come back to you.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, McLeod. McLeod. All right, if I can get everybody to turn their camera on, please. Please remove Bobby Clark from the Mr. and Mrs. Green, if you would please turn your camera on. There we go. Okay. We're on the record in 24 CPR 040826, the state of Norman Scott McLeod. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes.
If I could get the Greens to unmute themselves so we can get a response.
Okay, there we are. Yes.
Very good. All right, Ms. Newton, why don't you get us started with the airship?
Thank you, Your Honor. Pam, we'll start with you. Will you please state your full name for the court?
It's Pamela Green.
And what was your relationship to Norman Scott McLeod, the decedent?
Kind of an adopted mom. His parents died when he was quite young. And yeah, he kind of adopted us as mom and dad.
So how long were you acquainted with him then?
I've known Scott since he was about 2.5, 3.
Thank you. He passed away on February 23rd, 2024 in Longview, Gregg County, Texas at the age of 51, correct?
Yes.
And he was a resident of Fort Bend County, Texas at the time of his death, correct?
Yes.
And having known him for so long, you were well acquainted with his family history, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And he was married on the date of his death to the applicant, Charlene McLeod. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did he ever have any children born to or adopted by him?
No.
And having known him for so long, you feel you would have known if there were any children that he had given birth or not given birth to, any children he had or adopted, correct?
Yes. There's no children at all.
And his parents predeceased him. You established that, correct?
Yes.
I mean, he had one sister, but she also died before him, correct?
Yeah, that was in 2018. Yeah.
And she did not have any children, right?
No.
Thank you. Do you have any interest in this estate? Are you an heir, creditor, or beneficiary?
No.
Thank you. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, call. Let's see, Miss Graham.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, Miss Green. How are you?
Very good.
You recall talking with me the other day about Scott?
Yes, yes.
And in our conversation, you had mentioned that he lived in British Columbia and Ontario, but not really overseas, is that correct?
That is correct.
And so there's no chance he would have had a child born somewhere and you wouldn't know about it?
No, no, he never lived overseas.
And you guys were really close. You talked all the time, traveled together, and stayed in very, very close contact. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
And
I
so-
spoke to him, the last time I spoke to him was February 22nd.
And that was just before he passed.
Yes,
And in all of, you've known him since he was little, like 3 years old. Is that true?
yes, yeah.
So, and in all of the years you've known him, which is basically his whole life, did he ever take another female into his home? Someone who could claim to be a wife or say they were married?
No, no.
And what about someone else's child? Did he ever raise another child, call someone else's child his own?
No other than Shar and her daughter.
And Miss McLeod does have a child, isn't that correct?
Pardon me?
Miss McLeod, Charlene, she does have a child, correct?
Yes, yes.
And although she was in the home with Scott, he's never made a claim, and the child's never made a claim that they were in a parent-child relationship. Is that true?
I believe so.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Newton, call your next witness.
Thank you. Vern, will you please state your full name for the court?
My name is Vernon Green.
Thank you. And what was your relationship to Norman Scott McLeod, the decedent?
Good friend, mentor, part-time dad.
Mm-hmm. And about how long were you acquainted with him?
Since he was 3 years old, I guess, when he broke the window in my house.
Mm-hmm. And he passed away on February 23rd, 2024 in Longview, Gregg County, Texas at the age of 51. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he was a resident of Fort Bend County at the time of his death, correct?
Correct.
And having known him since he was about 3, you would say you were well acquainted with his family history?
Absolutely.
He was married on the date of his death to the applicant, Charlene McLeod. Is that correct?
That's right.
And were there ever any children born to or adopted by him?
No, there was none.
And having known him so long, you believe you would have known whether there would be any children born
I'm
to
quite
adopted
sure.
by him?
I'm quite sure of it. Absolutely.
And he was predeceased by both of his parents. Is that correct?
That's right.
And he did have one sister, but she also predeceased him.
That's right.
And she did not have any children either, correct?
No, she did not.
Do you have any interest in this estate? Are you an heir, creditor, or beneficiary?
No, I have no interest whatsoever.
Thank you. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Graham.
Hi, Mr. Green. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You recall speaking with me the other day about Scott?
That's right.
Okay. And just to be clear for the record, when I say Scott, that's Norman Scott McLeod, but he went by Scott. Isn't that how you knew him?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And you heard the questions I asked your wife about where he lived and whether or not there could be a child or a wife out there that we don't know about. Did you hear her answers?
Yes, I did.
And would your answers be the same as hers if I asked you those same questions?
They would be the same answers, yes.
Now, one thing you shared with me was you actually did talk with Scott about making a will. Is that true?
It was either making a will or some nature that, because he knew that we had a will and he wanted to know how I went about it and how do you decide things. Scott and I discussed business quite a bit.
And to your knowledge, did he ever come back and say that he wrote a will or made a will?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And do you think if he'd have written a will that you would have probably known about it?
I'm quite sure because, like I said, we discussed quite a lot of stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Newton, anything further for the heirship?
No, Your Honor.
After listening to testimony of Vern Green and Pamela Green, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence the decedent's heirs are those listed in the judgment declaring heirship. Ms. Graham, I'm going to discharge you from your duties as attorney ad litem. I show a fee in the amount of $990.50. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
That agreed to.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. All right. Let's see, Ms. Graham, you're going to hang tight because I know we've got you on the next case as well. But our witnesses, Mr. and Mrs. Green, thank you so much for coming in and testifying today. We couldn't get this done without you. You're free to go or you're free to stay for the remainder of the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Newton, call your next witness for the administration.
Thank you, Your Honor. Shar, will you please state your full name for the court?
Charlene McLeod.
And what was your relationship to Norman Scott McLeod, the decedent?
He was my spouse. I was married to him.
Did your husband pass away on February 23rd, 2024 in Longview, Gregg County, Texas at the age of 51?
Yes,
And he was a resident of Fort Bend County at the time of his death, correct?
yes,
And 4 years have not passed since the date of his death, correct?
correct.
To the best of your knowledge, did he ever have a will?
No,
And there's a necessity for the administration of this estate, correct?
yes,
And he was married to you at the time of his death. You established that, correct?
correct.
Were there any children born to or adopted by him?
No,
And he never brought any children into his home to raise, correct?
no,
And it's true that his parents and his only sister were also deceased and that you're the only heir, correct?
correct.
And as the applicant in this estate, you've made an application asking for an independent administration of this estate and to serve without bond, correct?
Correct.
And are you qualified and not disqualified from serving as the independent administrator of this estate?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further questions, Your Honor.
After listening to the testimony of Charlene McLeod, the court finds the decedent died intestate and there's a necessity for administration. The court will grant the request the applicant appoint Charlene McLeod as independent administrator of the estate. Ms. McLeod, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And actually, Mr. and Mrs. Green, I'm very sorry for you all's loss as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Newton, anything further?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Y'all free to go.
Thank you.
We're moving on to more.
There, duty is done. I don't know what she was saying.
Pull the attorney in. Mr. Green?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very good. Are the applicants, so I'm listing the applicant and one of the
Applicant is here.
applicants with you. Okay, very good. And what about Mac Harper?
I don't know. The two witnesses?
I have one, Linda Burks. Miss Burks, if you turn your video on, please.
Mac Harper?
Mac Harper.
She said Linda Burks is online.
Hmm?
Linda Burks is online.
Linda's online. How about Mac?
I am missing Mac.
Is the ad item here?
Yeah, item is present.
Okay.
Yeah. Michael. Hey, man. Tell Harper he needs to get online. We ready. So Mike ain't on there.
All right. Mr. Green.
Yes.
All right.
I have a extremely large docket this morning. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put you and your client and the witnesses back in the waiting room. I'm going to move on to my next case. I'm going to try to come back to you as soon as I possibly can.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. I think we have him on the other line, huh?
Please try to locate Mr. Harper. Miss Graham, we're going to have to put you back in the waiting room for now.
No worries, Your Honor. Thank you.
Case number 1 on the docket and get that done. That's Franny. That one. Okay, if everybody would turn their video on, please.
All right. Can anyone see me?
Terry, yes, we can see you. Terry Kimbrough,
All
if you
right.
could turn your video on, please. Okay. I think everybody's connected now. We're on the record in 24 CPR 040574. The state of John Milton Andrews. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Ms. Cordero, if you'd raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
If everybody could respond, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cordero, you can lower your hand. Mr. Ali, you can lower your hand. Mr. Kimbrough, if you'd respond by unmuting, you would have to unmute yourself though first, please. Mr. Kimbrough, you have to unmute yourself.
And Judge, I was also expecting Nayeli Avedano. Is she in the waiting room possibly? Avedano, sorry.
Annie? Bring her in. Will this Avendano be providing testimony?
Yes, she's a subscribing witness.
Miss Avendano, if you'd turn your camera on, please. Miss Avendano, good morning. If you'd raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, I think everybody's sworn. I still haven't gotten Mr. Kimbrough to respond. He's having issues unmuting himself. Let's proceed without Mr. Kimbrough for now, and hopefully he can figure out what's going on.
Thank you, Judge. I'll go ahead and start with Nayeli. If you please state your name for the court.
Nayeli Avendano.
And the purported codicil of the decedent dated February 2nd, 2017 is now before the court. On that date, were you present and did you see the decedent sign this document?
Yes.
And Judge, we take judicial notice of the codicil that has been sent into the court?
The court shall.
Copy.
The copy of it.
Okay, Nayeli, did the decedent declare to you and the other witness, Lucy Cordero, that this was his will and that he wanted you to be an attesting witness?
Yes.
And did each witness sign the codicil in his presence and in the presence of each other?
Yes.
And on that date, was Mr. Andrews at least 18 years of age and of sound mind?
Yes.
And was each witness above the age of 14?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Yes.
Call your next witness.
And Judge, I think you muted. Okay, I can proceed with Lucy Cordero. And you're on mute. Thank you. All right, would you please state your name for the court?
My name is Lucy Cordero.
And the reported codicil of the decedent dated February 2nd, 2017 is now before the court. On that date, were you present and did you sign, were you present and did you see the decedent sign the document?
Yes.
And did the decedent clear to you and the other witness that this was his will and that he wanted you to be an attesting witness?
Yes.
And did each witness sign the codicil in his presence and in the presence of each other?
Yes.
And on that date, was Mr. Andrews at least 18 years of age and of sound mind?
Yes.
And was each witness above the age of 14?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Bottom. Take yourself now.
All right, call your next witness.
Where am I?
So, Mr. Kimbrough. All right, would you
see
please
it?
state your name for the court?
Calm down. Terry Kimbrough.
All right. And are you a resident of Texas?
No.
And was the decedent John Andrews your nephew?
Yes.
And did he pass on December 8th, 2023 in Sugar Land, Fort Bend County, Texas at the age of 75?
Yes.
And his date of passing was less than 4 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Did he leave a will?
Yes.
And did he also make a codicil to that will?
Yes.
And were you only able to locate a copy of the codicil?
Yes.
And was there a diligent search done to locate the original codicil to the will?
Yes.
So the document provided to the court dated August 10th, 2015 purports to be the decedent's will. To the best of your knowledge, did he ever revoke the will?
No.
And Judge, we take the judicial notice of the original will dated August 10th, 2015.
The court shall take judicial notice.
Mr. Kimbrough, the purported codicil is dated February 2nd, 2017.
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, did he ever revoke that codicil?
No. Frank.
And in the will, are you and Raymond W. Ali named as independent co-executors?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, Mr. Ali is a resident of Texas, correct?
Yes.
And are you disqualified for any reason from serving as the executor?
No.
And after the date of the will, were any children born to or adopted by the decedent?
No.
And was there a marriage of the decedent dissolved after the date of the will?
No.
And is there any state governmental agency or charitable organization named in the will as a beneficiary?
No.
There is a necessity for the administration of his estate, correct?
Yes.
You're asking the court to appoint you and Mr. Ali to serve as independent co-executors to serve without bond?
Yes.
I pass the witness.
Call your next witness.
All right. Mr. Ali, would you please state your name for the court?
My name is Raymond Ali.
And are you a resident of Texas?
Correct. Yes.
And if I were to ask you all the questions I just asked Mr. Kimbrough, would you be agreeable?
100%.
And are you asking the court to appoint you as an independent co-executor to serve without bond?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
Anything further?
There's nothing further.
All right. Court heard the testimony of Lucy Cordero, Nayeli Avendano, Raymond Ali, and Terry Kimbrough. They testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court, validity of the will and the copy of the codicil, I should say. The court will admit the will and a copy of the codicil into probate and appoint Raymond W. Ali and Terry Kimbrough as co-independent executors to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. Ms. Howard, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Judge.
Anything further for the record?
Nothing further.
And I want to thank everybody who came in to testify today to help us bring this to a close. And Mr. Ali, Mr. Kimbrough, I'm sorry for your loss.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, y'all are free to go.
Thank you.
Go to clerk call.
They never see me. You,
They saw you.
they saw you.
They saw you. You just didn't see yourself.
Yes.
But you got what three frames.
Yeah.
I can see your Frank.
All right. I'm trying to figure out how to cut this thing off here.
Yeah, I haven't tried mine yet, but damn, it should be easy. It says leave.
Say good morning. Well. Okay, where's my other witnesses? Here's Gully. There's Angel. Okay, we're all here. I was to make sure everybody was there.
Got three of them up there.
Yeah, it's right here
Very good.
or somewhere.
And a ad litem.
Yes, she's right here.
Get out of the way when they sworn in.
Let's come here.
Is the applicant with you, Mr. Kanak?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. If everybody could turn their video on, please.
Okay, come on, people.
If everyone would turn their video on, please. Angie Smart, Tanya Little, and James and Jim Gully, excuse me. If you would turn your video on, please.
That's Mr. Bill.
All right, I think we're all connected. We're on the record in 23 CPR 039533, estate of James Allen Kirkendall. All those who intend to testify, if you'd raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
You are?
Yes.
Yes.
Miss Little, Mrs. Smart, if you'd unmute yourself to respond.
Thank you.
Who? And now it's talking about one of the other witnesses.
Oh.
Y'all are good.
We're good.
I do. Miss Litke, I'm sorry. Could you unmute yourself?
Yes, did I do it then?
There we go. You're good.
Okay. Thank you.
Smart. I think you're having some issues.
Yes, every time I go to speak, it just turns back off the microphone. Did you hear that one?
It heard you just fine. So stay there.
Okay.
Don't do anything. Just leave yourself the way you are. All right.
Okay.
Knack, you and your clients can have a seat. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right.
Why don't you call your first witness for the airship?
Not you. You got to sit down over there. Okay. My first witness is Wanda Lubezaki.
Okay, let's break one. Okay. It's a little bit.
Proceed.
All right. I wanted to, you are a cousin of the decedent, right?
Yeah.
James Allen Kirkendall,
Yes, sir.
and you live at 8811 Pensick Road, Richmond, Fort Bend County, Texas. Is that correct?
Yes.
The decedent, James Allen Kirkendall, died April 2nd, 2023, at his residence at 11806 Zamonic Road, Needville, Fort Bend County, Texas, at the age of 68. Is that correct?
Yes.
The last 3 digits of his social security number and driver's license number are 428 and 508. Is that correct?
If that's the information I gave you, that's
That's
correct.
correct.
Yes.
The court has jurisdiction to venue over this case because the decedent was living in Fort Bend County at 11806 Zamonic Road at the time of his death. Is that correct?
Yes.
He owned real and personal property in the amount of over $100,000. Is that correct?
The amount may not be accurate, but it's
It's
probably
about-
over 100,000. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Parents were Jesse Marion Kirkendall and Vlasta Josephine Kirkendall. Is that correct?
Yes.
They're both deceased. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And other cousins other than yourself, be Linda Martin. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Jeanette Stasny. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Reuben Sabrasula, who is deceased. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he had one son, Shane Sabrasula. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Deborah Vella. Is that correct? Another
Yes.
cousin? And David Sabrasula,
Yes.
cousin. And Uncle Albert Sabrasula and Aunt Alma Sabrasula were both deceased and had the following children. Is that correct?
Yes.
They're both deceased. Don Sabrasula, is that correct?
Yes.
And Diane Emmett
Ernest. Yes.
and Josephine Sabrasula, who is deceased. Is that correct?
Joseph Sabrasula.
Joseph, I'm sorry.
Deceased. Yes.
And Joseph had one daughter, Ashley Figueroa.
Yes, sir.
And then there's Albert Sabrasula, who is also deceased. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he had 2 sons, Michael Sabrasula and Matthew Sabrasula. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm not going to ask you anything about the father's side. I'll get to that with them.
Right.
You're a cousin. You already stated that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the decedent was not married, but had been married previously. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the name of his spouse was Joe Jones. Is that correct?
Yes.
And they got married on August 23rd, 1975 in Montgomery County. Is that correct?
If that's the information I gave, that's correct.
It is. It's what you
Yes.
gave us.
Okay.
Okay. And they divorced on November the 16th, 1979. Is that correct?
That's the date I found online. Yes, sir.
There were no children born to or adopted by
No.
these people during their marriage. And as far as you know, the decedent didn't have a will. Is that correct?
I don't know.
As far as you know.
As far as I know,
And there is a necessity for administration of this estate because there's real property involved. Is that correct?
Yes.
He was not predeceased by a child. He had no children, born to or adopted by him. Is that correct?
Correct.
We're asking the judge for an independent administration and for the appointment of yourself as the independent administrator. Is that correct?
Yes.
And without any bond or appraisers. Is that correct? We're not asking for a bond and we're not asking for appraisers. Is that
No.
correct? Okay, and you are not disqualified by law from being the independent administrator of the Stevens estate. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's all I have for there. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good morning, Ms. Lubajaki. I am Libby King. I'm the attorney ad litem. We spoke over the phone a few times. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. I believe that you testified with your attorney that the decedent's mother, Vlasta Kirkendall, you talked about her brother Ruben Sabersula and her brother Albert Sabersula. Is that correct?
Yes.
But I don't think that Vestine Sabersula was mentioned. And is it true that that was another sibling of the decedent's mother?
Yes, he was my uncle.
Okay, and he had no children. Is that correct?
No children.
Okay. In your original application to determine heirship, there were no paternal heirs mentioned. Can you tell the court a little bit about your relationship with the decedent and why at the time that you filed your application, you did not believe there were any paternal heirs?
No one in my family, cousins, or anyone I could ask or friends knew of anyone from my cousin's dad's side. There was just nothing, blank. And I went online, I searched the best I could. I didn't come up with anyone with that last or with his dad's name. I tried to find his dad's name. I did research with the funeral home the cemetery where his dad and mother are buried. They had no record of any family members. I searched the newspaper that I could online around that area. There was no listing of his death where I could see if he had any family members. And my cousin never talked about any family members, aunts, uncles, cousins from that side of the family.
Okay.
So I was at a dead end with that.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. You mentioned that to your knowledge, there was no will. Do you know if anyone ever performed a search for a will, or did you perform a search for a will?
I looked in the house that he lived in, but he was living in a camper at the time of his death. Everything's a mess, a big, unbelievable mess. I looked the best I could. He never talked about a will. And I think towards the latter part of his life, it's not something he would have taken care of on his own. So if there's a will, he had a computer. He has a computer. I don't have the passcode yet. I have pieces of notes he left on papers and composition books, but I didn't try to get into his computer. And the computer was on the floor in the camper with no wires hooked up and all that. So if he made any type of will on his computer, I have no knowledge of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I have no further questions for the applicant, Your Honor.
All right. Call your next witness, Mr. Knack.
All right, I'm going to call J.D. Mikulik.
I do not have a JD. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Well, you have no relationship to this individual, is that correct?
That's correct.
And as far as you know, he had no will, is that correct?
That is correct.
And as far as you know, he had no children either born to or adopted by him, is that correct?
That's correct.
I'll pass the witness.
Good morning, Mr. Mikulik. My name is Libby King. I'm the attorney ad litem in this case. I was appointed to research the decedent's heirs. And do you recall speaking with me on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice to see you in person or over the computer in person. Tell the court how you knew the decedent's family.
Well, they were neighbors of ours. We lived across from each other. And I knew the family real well and all the people that was involved.
Okay, in fact, you've known this family since the 1940s, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and you were consistently around the family the entire time that they were living near you, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And were you in the room with Mr. Kanak when Miss Lubojaki testified?
Yes.
Okay. And she testified that the decedent's mother was Vlasta Kirkendall, is that right?
That is correct.
And did Vlasta have 3 siblings, Ruben Sabersula, Albert Sabersula, and Vestine Sabersula?
Yes, ma'am.
And did Vestine Sabersula did not have any children, is that correct?
Repeat that again.
Vestine Sabersula did not have any children,
No,
is that right?
no, it did not.
Okay. And did you know, and are you familiar with the children of Ruben Sabersula?
Yes, I knew him.
Okay, I'm going to list them out and ask you if I have this right. Were his children Wanda, Linda, Jeanette, Reuben Jr., Deborah, and David?
That is correct.
Okay, did I leave any of them out?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and is it true that Reuben Jr. died before the decedent?
Yes.
And does Reuben Jr. have one child, Shane Sabersula?
It's a son, Jane. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and does Reuben Jr. have any other children other than Shane?
Do what now?
Does Reuben Jr., did he have any children other than Shane?
No.
Okay. Now I want to talk about Albert Sabersula. To my knowledge, he had 4 children, Don, Diane, Joseph, and Albert Jr. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it true that Joseph is deceased and died before the decedent?
Yes, ma'am.
And did Joseph have one child and only one child, Ashley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is it true that Albert Jr. is deceased and predeceased the decedent?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it true that Albert Jr. had 2 children and only 2 children, Michael and Matthew?
That is correct.
And so have we talked about all of the children of Vlasta Kirkendall and her 3 siblings?
Yes.
If the decedent, James Allen Kirkendall, had been married at the time of his death, do you think you would have known that?
I think so.
Okay. If the decedent had any children by birth or adoption or by taking a child into his home to raise as his own, do you think you would have known that?
Yes.
And do you know anything about whether or not the decedent had a will?
To my knowledge, I don't think he had one.
And do you know whether the decedent was ever in the military?
No, ma'am.
And do you know whether the decedent ever lived overseas?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
Next witness is Shirley Kaminsky. Shirley, you have no interest in this estate, is that correct?
That is correct.
And as far as you know, the decedent, James Kirkendall, did not have a will, is that correct?
That is correct.
And as far as you know, he had no children either born to or adopted by him, is that correct?
That is correct.
I'll pass the witness.
Good morning, Ms. Kaminsky. I'm Libby King. I'm the attorney ad litem. And do you recall speaking with me on the telephone?
You have to talk a little louder.
Okay, sure. Do you recall? My name is Libby King. I am the attorney ad litem. I was appointed by the court to research the decedent's family, his heirs. And do you recall talking with me on the telephone?
Yes.
And were you in the room when JD Mikulik testified?
Was I what?
Were you here when?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and
I am.
did you hear his testimony?
I did.
Okay, did you agree with what he testified to regarding the decedent's family?
Yes.
Okay. Did he leave out any family members that you know of?
No.
If the decedent had been married at the time of his death, is that something you think you would have known?
Yes.
And if he had had any children, either by birth, adoption, or by taking a child into his home to raise as his own, do you think you would have known that?
No.
That's something that you don't think you would have known?
No.
Okay. Why don't you please tell the court how you knew the decedent?
He lived next to me.
And go ahead.
We visited often, and he'd had knee surgery and he'd walk every evening. And
how long did you live next door to him?
I wouldn't know exactly.
Okay, so more than 5 years?
Yes.
Okay, more than 10 years?
That I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I couldn't say.
But you saw him on a regular basis?
Yes.
Okay. And you never saw anything that indicated to you that he had any children, is that right?
That's right.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Your next witness.
Angie Smart.
I'm here.
Okay. Angie, I'm Tom. I know we haven't met, but you are from the father's side of the family, is that correct?
I am related to or daughter-in-law of Larry Smart.
Okay. See here. You have a fair amount of knowledge about the family of the decedent, James Kirkendall, and in particular of Fanny Kirkendall Smart. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Fanny Smart, deceased, was the paternal aunt of the decedent. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Fanny Kirkendall had two children, Herbert Smart and Mildred Smart. Both are deceased. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Herbert had two children, Charlene Tapping and Larry Smart, and they are cousins of the decedent. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Best of my knowledge.
Mildred Smart had two children, Edward Smart and Robert Smart. Both are deceased. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
As far and this part of this branch of the family didn't know very much about James Kirkendall. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you have no interest in the estate. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have no interest.
And you wouldn't know if he had a will then, would you?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Ms. King.
Good morning, Ms. Smart.
Good morning.
This is Libby King. You and I have spoken on the phone many times. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Please tell the court how you are related or how you know this family.
I am the daughter-in-law of Larry Smart.
Okay.
Which granddaughter-in-law of Herbert Smart.
Okay. And so you've testified regarding the heirs of Fanny Kirkendall, the paternal aunt of the decedent. Do you have any knowledge regarding whether there were any other aunts or uncles?
In regards to who?
This would be siblings of Fanny.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And you testified that Edward, Mildred's son, is deceased. Do you know whether Edward had any children?
I do not believe they had any children.
Okay, and what about Robert, Mildred's other son?
I don't believe he had any children either.
And you never met the decedent, is that true?
That is correct.
So you have
I've
no
met
knowledge-
Mildred, but not Robert or Edward.
Oh, and I'm sorry, did you ever meet James Kirkendall,
No.
the decedent?
No,
Okay, do you have any knowledge regarding whether he was married or ever had children?
no.
I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
Knack, call your next
I will
witness.
now call Jim Gully.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Jim?
Great.
You have knowledge of the paternal side of the family of the decedent, is that correct?
Correct.
In particular, the J.B. Kirkendall family and the R.B. Kirkendall family, is that correct?
Correct.
J.B. Kirkendall is deceased and R.B. Kirkendall is deceased. Is that correct?
Yes.
They were paternal uncles to the decedent, is that correct?
As far as I know, yes.
All right. Neither J.B. Kirkendall or R.B. Kirkendall had children. Therefore, there are no cousins from this branch of the family. Is that correct?
As far as I know, that's
You
correct.
gentlemen, J.B. and R.B. Kirkendall didn't have any children. Is that correct?
JB had two daughters that were not, I don't think they were ever legally adopted.
Okay. Well, that's fine. And as far as you know, this part of your family didn't really know James Kirkendall very well. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you have no interest in the estate. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if you wouldn't know if he had a will or not, would you?
No.
Okay. All right, I'll pass the witness.
Good morning, Mr. Gully. I'm Libby King. You and I have spoken on the phone several times. Is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you for taking the time to be here this morning. We appreciate it. Would you please tell the court your relationship with this family?
JB Kirkendall, who was also known as Jake, was married to my mother's sister. So he would be my uncle by marriage.
And you had quite a bit of interaction with his family growing up. Is that right?
Yes, his wife, JB's wife, Andy, was my mom's sister, and they were best friends also.
Okay. And Andy came to that marriage with JB with two children. Is that right?
That is correct.
And those children, that was Benny Marie Cyril and Charlene Cyril. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But to your knowledge, although these two girls were JB's stepchildren, he never adopted them. Is that correct?
Legally, we do not think he'd ever adopted them, no.
Okay. And do you have any knowledge of any of the other family members of the Kirkendalls, or just JB's?
It would be just JB. I knew, as a child, I remember RB's wife.
And is it true that RB did not have any children?
That is what my brother and sister and I think, yeah.
Okay. So you never saw RB with any children?
No.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses for the heirship?
One more, Your Honor. Tanya Litke.
Yes, I'm here.
You have knowledge about the paternal side of the decedent's family, is that correct?
Yes.
In particular, Wilson Kirkendall family, is that right?
Yes.
Wilson was paternal uncle of the decedent, is that correct?
To my knowledge, yes.
All right. Wilson Kirkendall had 4 children: Russell Kirkendall, Barbara Jones, Richard Kirkendall, and Dorothy Gross. And they are cousins of the decedent, is that correct?
Yes.
This branch of the family didn't know much about James Kirkendall, is that correct?
Yes, as far as I know.
You have no interest in this estate, is that correct?
That is correct.
And as far as you know, the decedent didn't have a will. If you don't really know him, that's okay.
I do not know.
Well, I'll pass the witness.
Okay.
Good morning, Ms. Lipke. I'm Libby King. You and I have spoken on the phone a few times. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Would you please tell the court your relationship with the family?
Yes, I am Russell Kirkendall's partner, girlfriend, however I need to phrase that.
And as you testified, Wilson Kirkendall, one of the decedent's paternal uncles, had 4 children, Barbara, Dorothy, Russell, and Richard. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And Wilson had no other children. Is that correct?
Not that I know of.
And do you have any knowledge regarding the children of the paternal aunt, Fanny Kirkendall, or the paternal uncles, JB?
I do not.
Kirkendall?
I don't know anything about those people.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Knack, anything further for the airship?
No, Your Honor. I've run the gamut of my witnesses and their witnesses and all the witnesses. I'm good.
Any statements you'd like to make regarding the airship?
I can do.
Oh, hold on. Ms. King, any statements that you have regarding the airship?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, I filed a report a few months ago, I believe, and I would ask that the court take judicial notice of that report and all the exhibits attached thereto.
Court shall take judicial notice.
So as the court, I'm sure can tell, this was a difficult airship because the applicant, that family, and I talked to all of them on that side that I could talk to, they just didn't know about this paternal side. So it took a lot of investigation to find everyone. Fortunately, I ran across some really, really nice, helpful people, more than are just here today with the court. So I was very appreciative of that. So although it took a lot of work, I think it could have been much more difficult had the people not been so generous with their time and helped me so much. I believe that with these witnesses that the airship bases are covered. I am comfortable with this airship. Again, I talked to more people than just who is here today. With these witnesses in court today, we've covered all 4 of the paternal sections of the family. And then of course, Ms. Lubojaki, she knows and the maternal moiety heirs fully know who that side of the family is. So I had no questions about that side of the family. So just, I'm comfortable with airship.
All right, after listening to testimony of Wanda Lubojaki, JD Mikulik, Shirley Kaminsky, Angie Smart, Jim Gully, and Tanya Litke, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence that the decedent's heirs are those listed in the judgment declaring heirship. I'm going to discharge Ms. King from her duties as attorney ad litem in this matter and award her a fee in the amount of $6,051.64. All right, Mr. Knack, anything further for the administration? I know you've provided some testimony to that already.
I believe I've pretty much covered everything in the first set of questions I was asking Ms. Lubojaki. I think she pretty much answered everything I would ask in the application for independent administrator.
I think we've pretty much covered it. So after listening to testimony of Wanda Lubojaki, the court finds the decedent died intestate and there's a necessity for administration. The court will grant the request the applicant appoint Ms. Wanda Lubojaki as independent administrator of the estate. I want to thank everybody for coming on and testifying today. Thank you for your patience and providing some testimony that allowed us to wrap this up. So thank you so much for your time here today. And Ms. Lubojaki, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
All right. Anything further for the record, Mr. Knack?
No, sir. Thank you, Judge.
You're free to go. Ms. King, I don't believe you have anything further. You're free to go as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let's bring in Sandals.
Are the witnesses free to go too?
The witnesses are free to go, yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Ugh.
You'll have to sit at the tables, make sure the microphones are turned on. You'll see a green light indicating it is turned on. We have a button right there on the microphone base. Okay.
Jonathan Spivey.
Who? Anith Pope?
I think she's with her sister Priscilla Yell. Ask Miss Yell.
If everybody could turn their video on, please.
That's my dad. I'm Jonathan.
Mr. Spivey, if you would turn your video on, please.
It should be on now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, just can't see you, sir.
Now, come here a minute. Where's the video?
Why is it so big like that?
Okay. No, right there. Click on it.
Your system is so neat. Affect the to closing. Recording. YouTube.
Should be on. Click on here.
It should say video.
No.
Yeah, go ahead,
Somebody,
Counselor.
Dad, is the shutter closed on the computer for your camera?
Yeah, he hasn't turned it on yet. It would be solid black if that was the case.
Okay.
So he needs to
Yeah.
just hit that start video button on Zoom.
Did you hear that, Dad? You need to hit the start
Our
video.
video.
We're looking
We're
for
looking for it. We can't find it on here. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, go get it on your.
He should be.
Did that do it?
There we go. All right. We're
All
on
right, Judge.
24 CPR 040943, State of Gwendolyn, Flonia Sandals. All those who intend to testify, if you raise your right hand to be sworn. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
If I could have Miss Yell unmute herself. Alexander, you can lower your hand.
Oh, sorry.
Ms. Yell, if you'd unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you. All right, call your first witness for the airship.
Call Ms. Marshall Scott. Ms. Scott, can you state your name for the court, please?
Marshall Scott.
And Ms. Scott, how did you know Ms. Gwendolyn Sanders?
I knew her through childhood and through church.
And did you know Ms. Sandals' parents?
Yes.
Ms. Clara Sandals is a mother.
Right.
Mr. Floyd Sandals was a father.
Right.
And do you know if Ms. Sandals, her mother, had any sisters or any siblings?
Yes, her mother had sisters.
All right, and of those sisters and brothers that are living, who are they?
The ones that's living.
Yes.
Mr. Jonathan, Bobby, and Miss Priscilla. Yeah. And I believe what's the other sister?
Anita Pope, would that
Miss
be her name?
Anita Pope, yes.
All right, and you said Mr. Jonathan Spivey, but you meant my dad, Mr. John Spivey, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Just, yes, yes.
All right. Do you know if her father, Mr. Floyd Sandals, had any siblings?
Not to my knowledge. He was the only child.
I'll pass it.
Thank you, Judge. Mrs. Scott, my name is Alicia. Do you remember speaking to me over the phone last month?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. My name is Alicia Kleseski. Do you remember speaking to me over the phone last month?
Yes.
And at that time, you told me that you and Ms. Sandals grew up together. You knew each other from church and from being musicians together. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And as far as you know, did Ms. Sandals ever marry?
As far as I know, of what?
Did Ms. Sandals ever marry?
As far as I know, she did not marry.
And as far as you know, she never had any children. Is that correct?
That's correct. As far as I know, she did not have any children.
Okay, and you also told me she never adopted any children and she never fostered any children. Is that correct?
Not to my knowledge, she did not.
Okay. And she never served in the military. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, she did not serve in the military.
She worked as a principal at school. Is that
right?
Okay. And as far as you know, she did not leave a will?
As far as I know, she did not, but I don't know for sure.
And as far as you know, she had no siblings and her parents died before she did. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I pass, Judge.
I'd like to call Ms. Stephanie Alexander.
That's me.
Ms. Alexander, can you state your name for the court?
Stephanie Alexander.
And Ms. Alexander, how did you know Ms. Sandals?
Gwen was my cousin, my first cousin.
And do you know Ms. Sandals, Gwendolyn Sandals' parents, who they were?
I gradually remember the dad because he died, but my aunt was Clara Sandals and her husband was Floyd Sandals.
And does Miss Sandals' mom, does she have any living siblings?
Yes.
And who are they?
Uncle John Spivey, Uncle Jay. My mom, Priscilla Yell, and Anita Pope.
This time I pass the witness, Sean.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Alexander, Ms. Alicia Kleseski.
Let me turn my volume up. I'm trying to hear. Go ahead.
Ms. Alexander, Can you hear
Yes,
me?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is Alicia Klaseski. You also spoke about a month ago, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
You spoke to me just over a month ago, is that correct?
Correct.
And at that time, you told me that you and the decedent, Miss Sandals, were our first cousins. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
You grew up together, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You were very close.
Yes, ma'am.
And as far as you know, she never married, is that correct?
Never married.
And she never had any children, correct?
Correct.
And she did not adopt any children?
That's correct.
Did she serve in the military, as far as you know?
No, ma'am.
Do you know if she left a will?
No, ma'am.
And did Ms. Sandals have any siblings?
No, ma'am.
And did her parents die before she did?
Yes, ma'am. They died before she did. Sorry.
Did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I pass the witness, Judge.
Thank you.
The airship.
Not on the airship. No.
Suzelle, mad.
No, Judge, that's so.
After listening to testimony of Stephanie Alexander and Marshall Scott, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence the decedent's heirs are those listed in the judgment declaring heirship. I'm going to discharge Ms. Klazowski from her duties as attorney ad litem and award her a fee in the amount of $650. Thank you. You're free to go.
Thank you, Judge.
Call your first witness for the administration, counselor.
Yeah. I'd like to call Miss Anith Pope.
Yeah.
Ms. Pope, can you state your name for the court, please?
Anith Spivey Pope.
And Ms. Pope, how did you know Miss Sandals?
Miss Sanders was my niece.
And isn't it true that Miss Sandals passed away on April 8th at the age of 58 years old?
Yes,
And when she passed away, she lived in Fort Bend County?
that's true.
And her passing away was less than 4 years ago, correct?
Right.
And Miss Sandals had no children born to her?
No, no children.
And Miss Sandals had no adopted children?
No,
Was Miss Sandals ever married?
no,
Did Miss Gwendolyn Sandals have any siblings?
no,
Was Miss Sandals preceded in death by her parents? Did her parents die before her?
Did her parents pass before she did?
oh yeah, her parents passed before she did.
And do you know if Miss Gwendolyn Sandals' grandparents passed before she did?
Yes, they did.
Do you know if Miss Sandals had a will or not?
I don't think so.
Did Miss Sandals ever mention having a will?
Sure.
Mention having a will.
No, not to me.
To the best of your knowledge, Miss Sandals died without a will, correct?
Yes,
Is there is a necessity for administration of Miss Sandals' estate?
Break her down.
Do you believe it is necessary for the estate of Miss Sandals for the legal affairs and financial affairs of her estate to be handled?
yes,
And you are asking the court to appoint Mr. Jonathan Spivey as the independent administrator of Miss Sandals' estate?
yes,
And you're also asking the court to waive the requirement of a bond and that no appraisal is needed, correct?
yes, that's correct.
No further questions for that witness, Your Honor.
Call your next one.
All right, my next witness I'd like to call Ms. Priscilla Yell.
Yes.
Ms. Yell, can you state your name for the court, please?
Priscilla? Yeah.
And Ms. Yell, how do you know Ms. Gwendolyn F. Sandals?
My niece?
And isn't it true that she passed away on April 8th, 2024 at the age of 58 years?
Yes.
And isn't it true she also lived in Fort Bend County when she passed away?
Yes.
And Ms. Sandals passed away less than 4 years ago?
Yes.
Ms. Sandals had no children born to her?
No children.
And Ms. Sandals had no children, she adopted no children, correct?
None.
Was Ms. Sandals ever married?
No.
Did she have any siblings?
No.
Did her parents pass away before she did?
Yes.
Did Ms. Sandals' grandparents pass away before she did?
Yes.
Do you know if Ms. Sandals had a will?
No.
Do you know if Ms. Sandals ever mentioned having a will?
No.
To the best of your knowledge, Ms. Sandals died without a will, correct?
Yes.
And do you believe there is a necessity for the administration of Ms. Sandals' estate?
Yes.
And is it true that you're asking the court to appoint Mr. Jonathan Spivey as the independent administrator of Ms. Sandals' estate?
Correct. Yes.
And that you're also asking the court to waive the requirement of a bond and for appraiser, correct?
Yes.
And did you know Ms. Sandals' father, Floyd Sandals?
Yes, I did.
Did he have any siblings?
None.
No further questions for that witness, Your Honor.
Call your next one.
Mr. John Spivey.
Yes,
Mr. Spivey, can you state your name for the court?
my name is John Spivey.
And Mr. Spivey, how did you know Ms. Gwendolyn Sandals?
She was my niece.
And she passed away on April 8th, 2024 at the age of 58?
Yes,
And Ms. Sandals lived in Fort Bend County when she passed away?
she did.
And Ms. Sandals passed away less than 4 years ago?
Yes,
Ms. Sandals had no children born to her?
none.
And Ms. Sandals did not adopt any children?
No,
Was Ms. Sandals ever married?
no,
Did she have any siblings?
no.
Did her parents pass away before her?
Yes,
And did her grandparents pass away before her?
yes,
And did you know her father, Mr. Floyd Sandals? Did you know Ms. Sandals' father, Mr. Floyd Sandals?
He's frozen.
Uh-oh. Let me see if I can reach my mom. She is the technical one out of the two of them.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Oh,
Let's start here. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to give you just a moment to get him back on.
okay.
Ms.
here he comes.
Alexander.
Here he comes. All right. Dad, can you unmute your microphone?
Me?
now can you hear me?
We can. Mr. Spivey, did you hear my last question? I asked you, did you know Miss Sandals' father, Floyd Sandals?
I did.
Did he have any siblings?
No,
Do you know if Miss Sandals had a will?
none. That we
Did
could find.
Miss Sandals ever mention a will?
No,
To the best of your knowledge, did Miss Sandals die without a will?
yes,
Is there a necessity for an administration of Miss Sandals' estate?
yes,
You are asking the court to appoint Mr. Jonathan Spivey as the independent administrator of Miss Sandals' estate?
yes,
You're also asking the court to waive the requirement of a bond and appraisal, correct?
yes.
Nothing further for these, Mr. Spivey.
Any further witnesses, counselor?
No other witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, after listening to testimony of Anith Pope, Jonathan Spivey and Priscilla Yell. The court finds the decedent died intestate and there's a necessity for administration. The court will grant the request the applicant appoint Mr. Spivey as independent administrator of the estate to serve without bond. Anything further, Counselor?
Nothing more, Your Honor.
All right, thank you all so much for coming on to testify and provide some closure to this case. Mr. Spivey, I'm very sorry for your loss. And being nothing further, y'all are free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to take a brief break and then we'll pick back up. Yes.
And now I log out.
We can leave, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Priscilla, you can leave.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
What do I do, Chris? Leave. Leave the meeting.
Need your help. Huh? Say it again. I need Jacob's help.
Seated. All right, Annie, move on to the guardianship case. Martin Wells.
Morning, Judge.
Morning. All right. We're on the record in 23 CPR 040113, guardianship of Donovan Martin Wells. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. You may put your hands down, and Mr. Junker, you may proceed.
Your Honor, as you said, we are here in the guardianship of Donovan Wells. I will call my one and only witness, applicant Jessica Martin Wells. Jessica, what's your relation to Donovan?
He's my son.
He turned 18 on November 15th of last year. Is that right? Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong date. We have that wrong on there.
Yes.
It's October
24th.
4th. There we go. So he just turned 18 4 days ago, correct?
19.
Turned 19. I'm sorry. All right. Now, he lives here in Fort Bend County with you, correct?
Yes.
Could you tell Judge a little bit about him and a little bit about his condition?
He was diagnosed with autism and intellectually disability when he was probably around the first grade. And since then we've been dealing with those two issues are his main issues.
Okay. Now, in preparation of this, he was seen by Dr. Moman. We've got an exam based on September 20th of 2024. Is that right?
Yes.
Judge, we would ask that you take judicial notice that you have on file a most recent exam based on a visit of September 20th, 2024.
Board shall take judicial notice.
Just a few things. Dr. Moman concluded that Donovan's partially incapacitated. There are some things he can do, some things he cannot do. Is that right?
Correct.
He has mild autism and intellectual disability. Most importantly, at this point, he cannot make fundamental decisions over medical, dental, psychological, psychiatric matters. Is that right?
Correct.
Even if they were put to him, he would not be comfortable making them right now. Is that
correct?
But there are a lot of things he can do. He can vote.
Yes.
He can drive.
He hasn't taken the test yet, but yes, he could probably drive.
Okay. The doctor did say that he thinks he could manage a bank account of some limited funds, correct?
Correct.
But at this point, we're not asking to give that power. He doesn't have any money in his name, right?
Correct.
Now, speaking of all that, when we started this process, we talked about alternatives to guardianship, powers of attorney, supported decision-making agreements. While he is high functioning, and we do expect somewhere down the road to be able to modify this guardianship and give him more powers back, hopefully get rid of it at some point. Right now, he's not ready to be able to make decisions for himself, is he?
Correct.
So if we used a supported decision-making agreement, we can't, one, trust that he's going to make decisions that are in his best interest, right?
Correct.
Even if we advise him on it.
Correct.
And two, he's just not comfortable in making those decisions, is he?
Correct.
Now, we've given notice to all interested parties. First, he has been served by the constable.
Yes.
His father passed away a few years ago.
Yes.
Now, does he have any other adult siblings?
He has 2 older sisters.
And they've both signed waivers saying they know this is going on and they don't need to be given further notice on it, right?
As far as I know, yes.
We've registered you with the Judicial Commission. Your background check has come back clear as far as we know. Any reason you'd be disqualified from serving?
No.
In fact, you're the most qualified person on this planet to serve as his guardian right now, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
And just going over it one more time, you said he's got maybe $100 of cash in his name right now, right?
Correct.
So there's no need for an estate, is
No.
there? You're actually working on getting his disability, his SSI in order right now.
Correct.
But that's taken about 11 months to get around to, right?
Yes, almost a year.
Okay. Finally, you understand you're going to be under court supervision from now on. That means you're going to have to answer to Judge Morales and provide him with an annual report every year to keep him aware of any changes in Donovan's situation, particularly as he develops further. You are prepared to do that, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Any further witnesses that you're going to be calling, Mr. Junker?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. You like to bring me the interesting cases, I'll tell you that. These partial guardianships. So, Ms. King, excuse me, Ms. Duff. I'm sorry, Ms. Duff, any questions?
I have a few, Your Honor. Ms. Wills, you remember a meeting with me a few months ago, is that correct?
Yes.
And I came to the house where you and Donovan live.
Yes.
And if I recall correctly, he has a pretty active social life, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Can you tell the court a little bit about what he does for his what he does in his spare time?
Right now he goes to the Lamar Consolidated Adult Transition Program Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and they go to job sites and do job work at certain job sites for a couple of hours a day. And then usually on the weekend he hangs out with friends or he hangs out at home.
Okay. And Mr. Junker asked you a few minutes ago, he is interested in learning how to drive. Is that right?
Yes, he is.
And when he gets comfortable with that, then you'll just take whatever steps are necessary to help him get his driver's license, right?
Yes, I will. Yes. I don't think I think the issue that he'll have is passing the written exam.
Okay.
So,
but you and he make decisions for him together. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you work through the process of what he wants to do and how he wants to do it.
Yes.
And you and he are the only people who live in your house right now. Is that correct?
Yes, besides my dog. Yes.
I was going to say, but I thought you had a dog.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We do.
All right. And so the three of you get along just fine.
Yes.
And I think Donovan wants to get a job at some point in time. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. And so you're well aware that this guardianship will be overseen by the court, but that you can change it in the future if he feels like gets comfortable with some things.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And he's very comfortable talking to you and letting you know what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do, right?
Yes, he does.
He's very clear about it too.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
All right. And you understand this will go on for as long as is necessary.
Correct.
All right. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
I've got a few questions. Ma'am, so my concern always when I establish a guardianship and somebody is seeking a driver's license, I'm always have some concerns regarding that particular situation. When you state that he's going to be getting it or attempting to get a driver's license, will it be a limited license with restrictions on it, such as he's only allowed to drive a particular range from his home, or he's limited to just basic roads, he can't drive on highways? What type of restrictions will be placed upon the license that you'll seek?
I haven't decided that yet because I don't know if he'll even be able to pass the written test by himself.
Okay.
He has a very low reading score, so I don't know if he would even be able to pass the written test by himself.
So I'll say this: in the past, when I have allowed individuals to establish a guardianship with the ability to drive, we've always put some sort of restrictions on it as well.
Okay.
And the restrictions I've seen in the past is he's allowed to drive up to 5 miles from his home, or he's not allowed to drive on highways, etc. And those restrictions are also not just in the order itself for the guardianship, but on the actual driver's license as well. So when he gets the driver's license, those restrictions will be actually placed on there. So if he's ever pulled over by a police officer and he's outside those restrictions, he can be ticketed, his license can be taken away, etc. So what I'd like to do under these circumstances, I don't have a problem establishing the guardianship, but I would like some additional restrictions within the order itself as to his, whatever y'all wanted to talk about. Like, I only want him driving 5 miles from the home, or I don't want him on highways. You know, y'all can discuss that. You and your attorney can, to figure out what is best for Donovan. But I do want to place some sort of restriction on the order as well.
Okay.
That sound good to you?
That's fine.
Okay. All right.
Judge,
He may not even have the capability to get a license, but if he does, if he passes the exam, I'd like those restrictions to be in place.
Okay.
Judge, based on our anticipation that this is a guardianship that will probably get restored, 5 years from now or so, because Donovan truly is the definition of delayed. Adding those restrictions right now so they can step up over time we'll be very happy to do that and go ahead and put something in now that can be addressed year over year. And hopefully we have him, within 4 or 5 years back here for restoration on everything.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. Let's go ahead and, Mr. Junker, you talk with your client. Y'all talk about the restrictions that y'all want to place in the license. And then we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and establish this guardianship for the record purposes. And then once I get an order, I'll sign it later on. After listening to testimony, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence that Donovan Martin Wells is totally incapacitated and need a guardian with full authority over the person. The court finds that a guardianship is warranted, appoints Jessica Lee Martin as guardian of the person of the proposed ward. Bond set at $50. Now, I will say I was a little hesitant to set the bond at $50 because he is going to be allowed to manage so much money. So you have it on there $5,000, although he doesn't have anything to his name and there's no estate. And I assume the $5,000 is just put on there just in case. I can't imagine you're going to dump $5,000 into a bank account.
No.
So.
No. I don't even have $5,000 to give him, so no.
Okay.
Judge, if that happens, we'll go ahead and jump back in for on the new court, the new estate code clarifications there that up to 20,000, we'll go ahead and set a sufficient bond in there. But I'm not sure that we even have that in the order. I know it was in the doctor's letter, and if it's in the order, I think we may remove it just for safety's sake right now.
Yeah, I want to go back. I want to say it is in the order, but I'm not 100%. Yes, it is in the order.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So
We'll discuss that, and it'll probably be removed just as it's not necessary right now.
based on the testimony I received here today, it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case anytime soon.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to discharge Miss Duff. I keep calling you Miss King. I'm so sorry. Miss Duff as attorney ad litem in order fee in the amount of $650.
Thank
All
you, Your
right,
Honor.
further for the record, Mr. Junker.
Nothing further, Your Honor. We'll go ahead and get that order over to you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Have
All
a
right.
great week.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Judge.
Bye-bye.
Couldn't pull that order back. Okay. Let's bring in the next guardianship case.
We discussed this case and this applicant had a criminal history, but it was dismissed.
No. Okay. Ms. Canales, if you turn your video on, please. There we go. All right, we're on the record in 23 CPR 039824, guardianship of Gabrielle Marie Canales. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Ms. Canales, if you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You're going to need to unmute yourself to respond, please.
I think it's down at the bottom left of my computer anyway.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry.
All right, if you just respond, please.
Yes.
Very good. All right, Mr. Spear, get us started.
Good morning, Your Honor. I represent Salima Canales in seeking guardianship of the person of her daughter, Gabrielle Marie Canales, the proposed ward. I call Salima Canales. Please state your name for the court, Ms. Canales.
Sulema Canales.
Are you seeking the appointment as permanent guardian of the person over the proposed ward, Gabrielle Marie Canales?
Yes.
And you brought this application in good faith and with just cause for having a guardianship appointed?
Yes.
And Gabrielle Marie Canales is your daughter, is that correct?
Correct.
And how old is she?
She's 20.
And she was born on February 24, 2004. Is that right?
Yes.
There currently exists no other guardianship of the person in Texas or any other state over Gabrielle. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You currently reside in Fort Bend County, Texas, right?
Yes.
And Gabrielle lives with you.
Yes.
Has Gabrielle always lived with you?
Yes.
Does Gabrielle have any siblings, brothers
Yes.
and sisters? Are their names Reuben Jacob Canales and Joseph Canales?
Yes.
Has Gabrielle ever been married or does she have any children?
No.
Gabrielle suffers from Dravet's syndrome, which, as I understand, is a form of epilepsy. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is it true that Gabrielle was examined by her doctor, Rachel Bray, MD, on July 3rd, 2023?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to enter into evidence the physician's certificate of medical examination completed on July 3, 2023, which is attached to the application for guardianship.
I'll tell you what, I'll take judicial notice of the physician certificate on file.
Okay.
All right. Continue.
Thank you. Is it your understanding, Ms. Canales, that Gabrielle's condition will be lifelong and that she will not improve?
That is correct.
Is Gabrielle able to feed, clothe, and shelter herself?
Yes.
Does Gabrielle verbally communicate?
Limited.
Is Gabrielle able to care for her own physical health?
No.
Do you feel that you are the best person to provide the day-to-day care of Gabrielle's needs?
Yes, I do.
Is it true that you've been one of the people providing for Gabrielle's day-to-day care in the past for many years?
Yes.
Do you feel that you will make decisions that are in Gabrielle's best interest?
Yes.
Have you considered other alternatives that would avoid the need for guardianship of the person for Gabrielle?
No.
Okay. you sought the pro bono, you sought Houston Volunteer Lawyers to have you appointed guardian because, can you explain why you did that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, you sought the guardianship appointment. Can you explain why you sought the guardianship appointment? Was it because that you felt like Gabrielle needed assistance in terms of doing, formal legal documents, taking care of herself, that sort of thing?
Yes, that is correct. Pretty much she doesn't quite understand a lot, and her speaking is very limited. So due to her medical needs, physical needs, I feel that I need to be her guardian overall for her health and everything.
Okay. I think you just answered this. In your opinion, is Gabrielle able to understand and sign legal documents?
No, she's not.
Did the doctor state if your daughter could sign legal documents like a medical power of attorney?
Yes.
Okay. The doctor stated that Gabrielle could sign documents, legal
Oh,
documents?
no, I'm sorry. No. They wanted her before to sign, but she's not able to write as well. So she cannot.
Okay. Have you considered other supports and services that would avoid the need for guardianship for Gabrielle?
Other supports, no.
Okay. Are you here today to ask the court to appoint you as guardian of the person of Gabrielle?
Yes.
And is it true that you are seeking the right to determine Gabrielle's residence because she cannot make this decision herself?
Yes.
Is it true that Gabrielle cannot make a decision regarding marriage, voting in an election, or operating a motor vehicle?
Yes.
Is it true that Gabrielle receives Social Security supplemental income?
Yes.
Okay, and these funds are spent each month caring for Gabrielle, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Are there any reasons why you would be disqualified as acting as guardian of the person of Gabrielle?
No.
And are you being represented by me on a pro bono basis through the Houston Volunteer Lawyers Program?
Yes.
At this time, are you asking the court to set bond as minimally as possible?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I pass the witness.
Elaine.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon or morning, Ms. Canales. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Do you remember meeting with me at your home on March 7th of this year?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I spoke with you during that time, and I also spoke with Gabrielle as well, or attempted to. I met with her?
Correct.
Okay. And since that time that we met, has there been any significant change in Gabrielle's condition?
No.
Okay, do the doctors expect that there's going to be any significant change in her condition?
No.
Are you just asking the court to continue taking care of your daughter like you always have?
Yes.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anything further, Mr. Spear?
No, Your Honor.
All right, after listening to testimony, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence that Gabrielle Rory Canales is still incapacitated with need of a guardian with full authority over the person. The court finds the guardianship is warranted and appoints Sulima Canales as guardian of the person of the proposed ward. Bond is set at $50. Mr. Lane, I'm discharging you and awarding you a fee in the amount of $620.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Spear, thank you. Ms. Canales, don't forget you will have to file a report with the court each and every year.
Okay.
All right. Y'all are free to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roberts. Can I get everybody to turn their camera on, please? Okay. I think everybody's connected now. We're on the record in 24 CPR 040923, estate of Clara May Roberts. All those who intend to testify, if you'd raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And if you would unmute yourself to respond, please.
Unmute. You have to unmute. Hit that. I do.
Yeah. Miss Green, Miss Clark, are y'all in the same room?
Yes, we are. I came to help her.
I understand. Because the way microphones work, y'all will not be able to be in the same room. You're going to have to be in separate rooms because you will get feedback.
Okay. Do you want us to go from one phone?
That's fine. You want to do that?
Okay. Turn yours off. Turn it off. Mm-hmm. Okay, is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Now. Turn the mic off. You're muted. You're gonna have to turn it off. Let me see. Just can I just say don't talk. There, you're off.
All right. Ms. Faulkner, get us started.
Is everyone on now and like the judge said, there she is. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. May I proceed, Your Honor?
May.
Thank you. Carolyn Lowe, I will call you as my first witness. Could you please state your name for the record? We can't hear you. You need to unmute. Your volume is either low or it's not on. Can you hear us now?
Carolyn Lowe.
All right. What relationship are you to the decedent?
Daughter.
Okay. And are you the applicant in these proceedings?
Yes.
Okay. And is your mother, Clara May Roberts, deceased?
Yes.
And what was the date and place of her death?
December 11, 2023, Fort Bend County.
Okay. And did the decedent reside in this county or have her principal estate in this county at the time of her death?
Yes.
Okay. Has 4 years passed since your mother died and since the filing of your application to determine heirship?
No.
Were there any children born or adopted by your mother?
Yes. Me, Carolyn Lowe, my brother, Modesta Roberts Jr., and I have another brother, Ricky Roberts.
Okay. And was your mother ever married and divorced?
Yes, she was married and divorced.
What was his name?
November 4th, 1971.
Okay. And you said she was married to Modesta Roberts Sr.?
She was, yes.
Okay. And was she ever married or divorced from anyone else?
No.
Okay. Are there any other descendants not named in the application to determine heirship?
No.
And she had no other children that predeceased her at any time?
No.
Okay. And what is the percentages of the interest of the estate do you and any of the other heirs your brothers have in this estate?
I'm entitled to 30.34% interest in all real and personal property owned by my mother. My Dexter Roberts brother is entitled to 33.34% interest in all real and personal property. Ricky Roberts' brother is entitled to 33% interest and personal property.
And the last one, did you say 33.33%?
Ms. Lowe, you're gonna have to repeat your entire answer. My court reporter's having issues hearing everything. Ms. Green, what I want you to do is mute yourself until Ms. Lowe is done testifying, and then you can unmute yourself that time because your microphone keeps cutting into Ms. Lowe's testimony.
No problem. Okay, where should we start?
Let me ask the question, Your Honor, if I may, and then okay. What is the percentage of the interest that you are entitled to as well as your brothers?
I am entitled to 33.34% interest in all real and personal property owned by my mother. My Dexter Roberts Jr., my brother, is entitled to 33.34% interest in all real and personal property. Ricky Roberts, my brother, is entitled to 33.34% in interest and personal property.
Okay, you said 33.34% to everybody.
That's correct.
You and your two brothers, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because that's not adding up. If you're entitled to 33.34%, what is the interest that your brothers are entitled to?
What the same?
Okay, I'm looking at your testimony. Well, the statements that you give to me, is it 33.3%?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Each?
Yes.
All right. Are the decedent's parents, your mother's parents, your grandparents, are they still living?
No.
Okay. And are there any other heirs listed in the not listed in the application to determine heirship that you have on file?
No.
And to your understanding, your mother did not have a will?
Yes.
Okay. And had you searched or searched anything to determine whether or not there is a possibility of locating any will at all?
I have.
Okay. And did you locate one?
No.
Okay. And are you requesting this court to declare you, Carolyn Lowe, Modesta Roberts Jr., and Ricky Roberts as the only heirs of Clara May Roberts, and to issue an order declaring such heirship?
Yes.
And have you reviewed the information contained in the application, and is everything true and correct?
Yes.
All right. Pass the witness at this time, Your Honor.
Judge, I have no questions of this witness.
All right, next witness, please.
Could I'll call Miss Bobby Clark.
There you go. Don't keep that at the bottom. There you
Miss
are.
Clark, could you state your name for the record?
Bobby Clark.
Okay, and what relationship are you to the decedent, Miss Clara Roberts, and how long have you known her?
We were friends, and I've known Clara since the early 2000s. I'm not sure exactly what year, but 2000, early 2000.
So it's probably about over 20 years.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and are you familiar with the applicant, Carolyn Lowe?
Yes.
And how long have you known her?
Up about the same time.
Okay, and where did you meet her?
We all met at church.
All right, and is Miss Clara May Roberts in fact deceased?
Yes.
And did she die on December 11th, 2023 in Fort Bend County?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, was the decedent ever married or divorced?
Yes.
Okay, and do you know from whom?
Modesta Roberts Sr.
Okay, and do you know of any other marriages of Miss Clara Roberts?
No.
Okay, and to your knowledge, were there any children born to or adopted by the decedent?
I know 3. Yes.
Okay, and do you know who they are?
Carolyn Lowe, Modesta Jr.,
and Ricky.
Okay. And you know of any other children that she ever had or adopted that we have
No,
not?
no,
Okay.
no,
Okay, at the time of her death, were her parents living to your knowledge?
no,
Okay. And to your knowledge, did she leave a last will and testament?
not to my knowledge.
Okay. And do you have any interest in this state or in these proceedings at all?
No, I do not.
Okay. Are you aware of anyone else with any interest in Ms. Clara Roberts' estate other than the 3 children that you named?
No.
Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Yes.
I got to do another one.
Just a minute.
Bobby, my name is Jeff Novey, and it's been a while, but I sent you a questionnaire to fill out quite a while ago, and you were nice enough to fill it out and send it back to me. Is that correct?
Yes.
And none of your answers have changed since the date that you sent that in to me.
That's correct.
Okay, just a few other quick questions. Did Clara ever take any other child or children into her house and consider them to be her own, even though they weren't her biological children?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Now you stated that she had 3 children, but I just want to clarify. You stated Carolyn Lowe, Modesta Roberts Jr., and you said Ricky, but what's Ricky's last name?
Ricky Roberts.
Ricky Roberts. Okay, just want to check with you on that. Do you know if she did have a will by chance?
No.
Do you know if there was a search made for her will?
No.
Okay. And again, you have no interest in this estate. In other words, she didn't owe you any money or anything like that. Is that correct?
No, she did not.
Okay. And my favorite question is, you're not getting paid for your testimony today, not even a 50-cent Jack in the Box gift card. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Judge, I pass this witness.
Next witness.
I call Miss Tommy Green. Miss Green, could you state your name for the record?
Tommy Green.
And that's Tommie, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Green is Green.
Yes.
Okay. And what is your relationship with the decedent, Miss Clara Roberts, and how long have you known her?
Just a friend in over 20 years.
Okay. And are you familiar with the applicant, Carolyn Lowe?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you known her?
Over 20 years, because I met both of them at the same time.
And where did you meet?
Choir rehearsal at church.
Okay. And you know the decedent, and the decedent, Clara May Roberts, she's in fact deceased.
Yes.
Okay. And did she die on December 11, 2023 in Fort Bend County?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, was the decedent ever married or divorced?
She was married and divorced.
Do you know from whom?
I can't hardly say the name. Modesta Roberts Sr.
Okay. And do you know when she was divorced?
I just know it was early 70s.
Okay. All
like
right.
71. I can't give you a date.
Okay. Would November 24th, 1971 ring a bell?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And to your knowledge, were there any children born or adopted by the decedent?
Yes.
And do you know who they are?
Modesta Roberts Jr., Ricky Roberts, and Carolyn Lowe.
Okay. Did Mrs. Clara May Roberts ever take any children to her home and to raise them or declare them to be her children or to be like her children during her lifetime, to your knowledge? Even though they may not have been her children.
No, ma'am.
All right. And at the time of Miss Clara's death, at the time she was were her parents living?
No.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did Clara May Roberts have a last will and testament?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you know whether or not anyone had ever searched for a living or a last will and testament, or did you help search for a last will and testament?
I know Carolyn did search. She had talked to me about it, and I told her that if her mom had a family Bible, sometimes the older people would put them in there. And so she did serve. I did not serve.
Okay, and do you know whether or not a will was ever found?
No, ma'am.
And do you have any interest in this estate at all?
No,
Is anyone paying you for your testimony, whatever the amount or whatever the
No.
payment may be? Okay, and are you aware of anyone else other than Carolyn Lowe, Modesta Jr., and Ricky Roberts being the relatives or the heirs of of Clara May Roberts?
no.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
We thank you for being able to testify today to help make this case. And Tommy, I also sent you a questionnaire several weeks ago, and you were nice enough to complete it and send it back to me. Is that correct?
Yes,
And none of your answers to that questionnaire have changed since that time. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay. So it would be your testimony that Clara May Roberts was not married at the time she passed away, and that she only had 3 children who were born to or adopted by her. And that, again, that would have been Carolyn Lowe, Modesta, let's see, Modesta Roberts Jr. and Ricky Roberts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Judge, Ms. Faulkner has asked all the questions I could ever think of to ask this witness, so I'll pass this witness at this time.
All right, anything further, Ms. Faulkner, for the airship or the administration?
Nothing further from the airship administration except for one question to Carolyn. Carolyn, are you asking this court to issue letters of testamentary to you so you can serve without bond? We can't hear you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Are you asking Judge Morales to issue letters testamentary to you so you can serve without bond or other security?
Yes.
Okay. And you also, well, I need to ask you the administration questions to you. And your brothers have also, are you aware that your brothers have also filed waivers in this case? Is that correct?
Yes.
Pass nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, after listening to testimony of Carolyn Lowe, Bobby Clark, and Tommy Green, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence the decedent's heirs are those listed in the judgment declaring heirship. I'm going to discharge Mr. Novi as attorney ad litem, award him a fee in the amount of $600. And then additionally, after listening to testimony of Carolyn Lowe, the court finds the decedent died intestate and there's a necessity for administration. The court will grant the request the applicant appoint Ms. Lowe as independent administrator of the estate. I'm very sorry for y'all's loss.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Glad we can get this done and work past some of the technical difficulties this morning.
Your Honor, thank you and your staff for your patience. I really appreciate that.
Not a problem. Thank you.
All right, and so we'll thank you so much. May we be excused?
You may.
Thank you,
Judge.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's get in the next case quickly.
Come on, leave.
Oh, yeah. You want to push that door? Can you push that door? You put up here so they can see you.
And Miss Moore, Marjorie Moore is with you, correct, Mr. Green?
Yes, that is correct. She's here.
All right. If I could get everybody to turn their camera on, please.
I think everybody's here.
We're on the record in 23 CPR 039424, estate of Gerthy Moore Jr. All those who intend to testify, if you'd raise your right hand.
Raise your hand.
Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. You'll have to unmute yourself to respond. Mr. Harper?
I do.
All right, very good. Okay, you can lower your hands. Let's see here. Counselor, why don't you get us started? Mr. Green, call your first witness.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good afternoon now, I guess. Good morning. I'm here with, you state your name for the record, please?
Marjorie Moore.
Are you well acquainted with Gertrude? That's pronounced Gertrude?
Guthrie Moore.
Gertrude Moore Jr.
Yes, that's my husband. Was my husband.
Was your husband for 55 years, is that correct?
54.
Was he born in Samboro, Louisiana, on about November the 7th, 1947?
Yes.
And he died in Louisiana. Y'all are going to Louisiana for the weekend, is that right?
Yes.
And he died there in Louisiana on July the 22nd, 2022?
Yes.
And that was less than 4 years ago, is that correct?
Yes, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know. That's less than 4, right?
Less than 4.
Now, he was a resident of 1731 Oakberry Drive in Missouri City, Fort Bend, is that right?
That's
At the
correct.
time of his death.
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, did he have a will?
No.
4 years have not passed since the time of his passing and the time that we filed this application to determine the issue in administration, is that correct?
Yes.
There is a need for administration, is that right?
Yes.
He was married to you at the time of his death, is that right?
Yes.
And y'all been married since 1968, is that correct?
Yes.
Was he ever divorced?
No.
Y'all married as youngsters and
Yes.
made it all the way to now, is that right?
Yes.
Y'all had 2 children, is that right?
That's correct.
Tonika and Donovan, is that right?
That's correct.
You asked this court to appoint you as independent administratrix of this estate, is that right?
Yes.
And your 2 children have executed waivers, is that right?
Yes.
In support of you being an independent administrator, is that right?
Yes.
This is a non-taxable estate and that is valued at less than $13 million, is that right?
Yes.
There's no outstanding debts owed to any government agency, is that right?
Yes.
There's no need for any appraisals, is that right?
No.
And if there was, you'd ask this court to waive them, is that right?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Graham, any questions? You're muted.
I'm okay. Is the ad litem a question?
Sorry, I didn't think she spoke to whether or not she searched for a will. Miss Moore, did you look for a will to see if your husband left one?
No.
Did he have a lockbox or anything like that that you need to search to see if he had a will?
He did not have a will. I've searched the boxes.
You searched his boxes and you looked through his papers?
Yes.
Okay, pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Green, call your next witness.
Okay, Mr. Hopper.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mac Hopper, is that right?
Yes, sir.
How did you know the decedent? Mr.
I
Moore?
knew Mr. Moore through his kids.
How long has that been?
I think that was around 1986, 1987. We were in middle school.
So you've known him since you've been in middle school?
Yes, sir.
You grew up with his kids?
Yes, sir.
You know him well?
Yes, sir.
Did you know him well enough that if he had any other children that you would know about it?
Yes, sir.
You go to funerals and family reunions and all of that with the family?
Of course, yes, sir.
And you say you grew up with the kids. You said, did your father pass too?
My dad died in 1982, and I was only 9, so he was a mentor of mine.
Okay. So he kind of took you in as a mentor once your father passed?
That's exactly right.
So you've known him virtually all of your adult life, is that correct?
Yeah, since about 14, 15, that's absolutely correct.
Okay. But you've known long enough that if there was other children around that you would have known?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have any interest in this estate?
No, sir.
Anybody promise you anything for coming here today?
No, sir.
Do you know if he had a will?
Not to my knowledge.
You ever discuss a will with him?
No, sir.
Okay. I pass the witness.
Hi, Mr. Harper. I'm Carrie Graham. Do you remember speaking with me about Mr. Moore?
Just vaguely. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Could you please state the children's names?
There was Donovan, who's a little older than me, and Tanika. She's a little younger than me.
And were there any other children born or adopted by Mr. Moore other than those two?
Not that I know of.
And if he had had any other children, do you think you would have known that?
We were pretty close. Yeah, I think I would have known.
You all went to the same church too, isn't that right?
I visited his church, yes.
Okay. And if he had been married to anyone besides Miss Marjorie, would you have known that?
I think so, yes.
And do you remember telling me that Mr. Moore served in the military for 4 years?
Yes, I do.
And do you think if he had had a child during that time, you would have known about it?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And so you don't have any reason to think there would be some other child who would make a claim to Mr. Moore's estate?
No, not at all.
Okay, pass the witness, Your Honor.
Green, call your next witness.
I'd like to call Linda Burks.
Ms. Burks, if you'd unmute yourself, please.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Burks. Will you state your name for the record, please? Will you state your name for the record, please?
Ms. Burks, can you hear us?
Linda Burks.
I saw her. That's her sitting there.
Linda Burke.
Ms. Burks.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Well, can you
Yes,
hear us?
Linda Burks. I can.
Ms. Burks, you clearly have a really bad connection right now. Are you running off Wi-Fi or are you running off your cellular network?
Wi-Fi.
Okay. Maybe try getting closer to the Wi-Fi router.
I sure will.
All right, you're fine right now, actually. Don't move. You're good right there. But let's continue, Mr. Green.
Okay. How did you know Mr. Moore?
We were from the same hometown, Simsboro, Louisiana. We went to church together and we lived about 2 miles apart.
You went to high school with him as well? Did you go to school with him?
Yeah. Ms. Burks, you froze up again.
No, not in high school. Well, elementary school, because they're age different. Can you hear me now?
I do.
Ms. Burks, why don't you try
We went to elementary. Elementary school together.
You knew him well enough that if he had any other children, did you know how many children he had? Ms. Burks? Do you hear me, Ms. Burke?
I do. I can hear you now.
Okay. You know how many children Mr. Moore had? Did you know
Two
his
children, Tanika and Donovan.
Okay. Do you know of any other children?
No, I don't.
And if there had been any other children, would you have known about it?
99%, yes, I would.
Okay. So you've known him virtually all of your adult life, is that correct?
Yes, I've known him for over 60 years.
Okay, that's all of your life, mostly. Okay, so
Mostly.
Okay. Well, you know if he had a will?
I will say no, I don't. I know the discussion came up maybe about I guess about 8 or 9 years ago. We were talking about a burial and a will, and at that time he didn't have either one. But
Okay.
since then, I don't know because we were discussing it.
Yeah. You don't have any interest in this estate, do you?
I do not.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Graham.
Hi, Ms. Burke. I'm Carrie Graham, the attorney ad litem. Do you recall speaking with me about Mr. Moore's estate?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you agree that he was married only one time, and that was to Miss Marjorie Moore?
That's correct.
Did he ever have any child that he brought into his home or raised who would make a claim that they're his child? Oh, Ms. Burke, I think you froze again.
For 60 years, I haven't ever. Mrs. Moore. Mrs. Moore.
I'm sorry, Ms. Burke, your answer was lost because your internet froze. Do you mind saying that again?
For 60 years, I've never seen or heard of anyone except Donovan, Tanika, and Mrs. Moore.
Okay. And you also were aware that he served in the military, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and he was decorated, I think, wasn't he?
I believe so.
And he was
For a hometown boy, we were proud.
and he was overseas in Vietnam, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if he had had any children born to him while he was overseas, is that something you would have been aware of?
%, I believe I would.
Okay. And I know you said you didn't really talk about wills but once, but y'all did talk about burial services, didn't you?
You are correct. Yes,
and so
we
you
did.
discussed end of life issues. In those times, did he ever discuss with you making a will or writing his wishes down?
No, he did not.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Green, anything further for this case?
No further, nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, after listening, Ms. Graham, anything you'd like to add?
No, Your Honor.
After listening to testimony of Linda Burke, Mac Harper, and Marjorie Moore, the court finds that by clear and convincing evidence, the decedent's heirs are those listed in the judgment declaring heirship. Ms. Graham, I'm going to discharge you from your duties as attorney ad litem, award you a fee in the amount of $955. Additionally, after listening to testimony of Marjorie Williams Moore, the court finds the decedent died intestate and there's a necessity for administration. The court will grant the request of the applicant to appoint Ms. Moore as independent administratrix of the estate. I'm very sorry for your loss, Ms. Moore.
Thank you.
I'm glad we could get past some of these technical hiccups today and get this done.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Y'all have a good day. You're free to go.
You too.
Thank you.
Take care.